"We're down," someone whispered behind the camera. "Everything's down." The CEO kept talking into the webcam, hadn't realized yet that 38 countries' worth of customer data just went dark. I took a sip of my coffee and watched the panic spread across the room like spilled ink. My name's Doug Brennan, 51 years old, and about 4 hours ago, they tried to force me into retirement. Let me tell you what happened. It started Tuesday morning at 7:13 a.m. I was pouring my usual burnt office coffee into the mug I'd used for 16 years. Chipped handle, stained inside, but it had the words, "Uptime Excuses" stamped on the side. Still true, far as I was concerned. I'd just helped this company hit $18 billion in revenue. No party, no announcement. Just a quiet nod from the 5 other engineers in our old break room, sharing gas station donuts like we always did after hitting a milestone nobody else noticed. 18 billion. I remembered staying up 72 hours straight when lightning took out 2 data centers back in 2019. Remembered missing my son's championship basketball game because customer systems were hemorrhaging data faster than we could patch them. Remembered the look on my wife's face every time I chose the servers over family dinner. 16 years of that. 16 years of being the guy who kept everything running while everyone else went home at 5. I opened my inbox to forward the revenue numbers to my old mentor. That's when I saw it. Subject: Organizational Realignment Initiative. I knew before I opened it. You work in corporate long enough, you learn to read the tea leaves. Realignment means somebody's getting shoved out the door. Turned out that somebody was me. My salary was getting cut 40%. My office was being reassigned. My new title was Transition Advisor, which is fancy talk for pack your stuff but train your replacement first. And my job? Going to Preston Aldridge, the CEO's son, 27 years old, got his MBA from some online program, hands that had never racked a server or debugged a failing system at 3 in the morning. I sat there staring at the screen. My hands didn't shake. My breathing stayed steady, just blinked once, real slow, like I was processing a system error. Then I archived the email. No reply, no anger, just a thin smile that could have cut through drywall. Something in me decided right then, okay, we're doing this. They announced it at the all-hands meeting that afternoon. Free bagels and coffee, like carbs could make up for what they were about to do. Half the staff stood against the walls holding paper cups, pretending this was normal. Then Preston walked in, hair perfect, sneakers that cost more than my truck payment. He bounced up to the mic doing finger guns at people. "Hey team, call me Press, whatever works." Guy made my skin crawl. "Big things ahead," he said, pacing like he'd watched too many TED Talks. "We're going to modernize our infrastructure, make everything more agile, get rid of some of that old legacy architecture that's been holding us back." Legacy architecture. That's what he called the system I built. The system that hadn't crashed in 4 years. The system processing 200 million transactions every single day without breaking a sweat. Then he started butchering client names. Mispronounced Garrison Financial 3 different ways. The $80 million account that basically paid everyone's salaries. "Maybe we'll rebrand them," he laughed. "Fresh start, right?" Couple people chuckled nervously. One guy coughed. Preston clicked to his next slide. My chest tightened. It was my infrastructure diagram, my work. Except he'd dumped it into some presentation template with bubble fonts and cartoon smiley faces. 16 years of routing protocols and failover systems reduced to 5 emojis, and a title that said Customer Happiness Pipeline. I didn't blink, didn't move, just pulled out a pen and started drawing circles on my notepad. "Questions?" Preston asked. I raised my hand. Real slow. "When you say modernize infrastructure, you talking about our failover protocols or just the marketing strategy?" He laughed like I'd told a joke. "Both, I guess." "Innovation everywhere, Doug." After the meeting, my manager caught me by the windows overlooking downtown. "Can you help Preston get up to speed?" she asked. "Show him how things work?" "Sure," I said. "I'll make sure he understands everything." That night I sat in my truck in the parking garage for 10 minutes, just staring at the steering wheel. Called my wife. "They're pushing me out," I said. Long pause on the other end. Then, "What are we going to do about Sarah's tuition?" "My daughter. Sophomore year at State. Tuition payment due in 6 weeks." "I'm working on it," I told her. I was. Just not the way they expected. Got home around 8, microwaved leftover chili, sat at the kitchen table and pulled up our bank account on my laptop. Retirement savings, 401k. If I took their severance package, we'd be okay for maybe 18 months. After that, we'd be burning through everything we'd saved. Sarah had 2 more years of college. My wife's back surgery was scheduled for next month. Good insurance through my job made it affordable. Lose the job, lose the coverage. They weren't just firing me, they were gambling with my family's future. Wrong move. I closed the laptop and walked down to my basement. Behind the washing machine was a cabinet nobody ever opened. Inside, my old home server. Built it myself back in 2009 when the company still ran on prayer and duct tape. I powered it up. Took a minute to boot, but it came online clean. Typed in my admin password. Still worked. I stared at the terminal screen. Green text blinking on black. All right, I said out loud. Let's build some redundancy. By mid-April, people started disappearing. Melissa from QA, Dante in customer ops, even Phil, the guy who'd been our walking alert system for 12 years, gone overnight. Desk cleared. Slack account deactivated before his chair went cold. The official line was strategic restructuring, like we were a startup pivoting instead of a profitable company purging expensive employees. Preston stayed, of course, untouched. He strolled through the office like everything was fine, working on his big project, something called Customer Vibe Dynamics. Had a logo with a cartoon dog wearing a headset. Nobody knew what it actually did. Not sure Preston knew either. I kept my head down, emails short, reactions non-existent. But I watched everything. Watched who stopped getting invited to meetings. Watched who started packing boxes at 4:30 instead of staying late. Heard the pauses in HR voices when they scheduled quick chats. My son called one evening while I was at my basement workstation. "Dad, Mom says you're leaving the company?" "Something like that," I said, typing commands into the terminal. "You okay?" "Yeah. Handling it." Long pause. "Let me know if you need anything, all right?" 22 years old, trying to take care of his old man. Made me more determined to get this right. "Will do, buddy. Thanks." After we hung up, I went back to work. Piece by piece, I was rerouting critical system dependencies into a Vault cluster I'd built 6 years ago for emergency backup, off the main grid, protected by encryption keys that only existed on my personal hardware. Every login, every change, logged in a local file on my machine, not on company servers, just a document I titled Failsafe Protocol 2025. They wanted me gone. Fine, but they'd learn real quick what happens when you fire the guy who built the foundation. It came for me on a Thursday. 2 HR reps walked me into a glass conference room, one trying too hard to smile, one looking dead inside. Somebody had put fake flowers in a vase on the table. "Doug, we're formalizing your transition," the smiley one said. "You've been so valuable. We want to offer you an early retirement package." The dead-eyed one slid a folder across the table. "Just need your signature on the separation agreement." I opened it, scanned through. Early retirement with penalties if I refused. Severance tied to a non-disparagement clause. A whole section saying I couldn't disclose any technical details about systems I'd personally built. I didn't blink. "I'm still the only operator on 3 routing endpoints," I said. 2 of those run our biggest client integrations. Don't think they're ready to fly solo yet." Deadeyes frowned. "We thought the new team was handling that." I just looked at him. Let the silence hang there. Then I slid the folder back across the table. "I'll think about it." That night, I pulled out an old shoebox from behind the washing machine. Inside was printed documentation from 9 years ago, actual paper, not digital files that could vanish, showing the license terms for the custom routing logic I'd written. Right there on page 1. License grant revocable. Rights reserved to individual contributor. My name, my signature. Still legally binding. I scanned it, saved 3 copies in 3 different places. Then I added one more line to my protocol. Our override NDA equals true, just in case they pushed harder. The real fun started with a Slack message, posted at 9:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, from Preston. "Infrastructure glow up alert. Just renamed our core clusters to something cooler. Say hi to Node Alpha, Node Beta, and Node Taylor. Yeah, after Swift, deal with it, LOL." Preston, things attached was a spreadsheet showing his new naming scheme. No testing, no version control, no backup plan, just pure confidence from a guy who didn't know what he didn't know. I read it twice, forwarded it to my personal email. Subject line, Exhibit A. By noon the next day, customer dashboards were acting weird. By 3 p.m., everything was loading like we were back on dial-up internet. Engineering leads started messaging me. "Doug, you seeing this?" "Yeah," I typed back. "Probably migration bugs. Let's keep an eye on it." I knew exactly what was happening. Preston had cut the connection between the node names and the underlying routing scripts. The system was looking for endpoints that didn't exist anymore. Instead of asking me for help, they filed a ticket. UI acting funny. Low priority. I almost laughed. A week later, they called a big meeting. The kind where leadership pretends they care about input, but decisions are already made. The CEO walked in fresh from some board retreat, all smiles. "We're crushing Q2. Let's make the investor call legendary." "Can we show off the new cluster names in the demo?" Preston asked, bouncing in his chair. "Absolutely," the CEO said. "Investors eat that stuff up." I raised my hand, kept my voice level. "There's an instability in the routing bridge. Should probably hold off on the live demo until we patch it." The CEO waved me off. "Doug, we need to trust our new leadership. They get what investors want to see." And that was it. Green light for a live demo. CEO presenting. Preston running the back end. Neither of them had a clue what was about to happen. That night, I sat at my basement terminal, stared at the screen for a full minute, then I typed the final command. Trigger, failsafe. Execute, 09 o'clock, Juchog. Scope all, nodes. Scheduled silence. Set for exactly 9 a.m., Friday morning, right when they be live with investors. I leaned back, took a breath. They wanted to see modern infrastructure. They were about to get a master class in what happens when you ignore the people who built it. Friday morning, 7:42 a.m., I walked into the building same as always. Coffee in hand, flannel shirt under my work jacket, steel-toed boots I'd been wearing since the warehouse days. "Morning, Doug," the receptionist said, barely looking up. The office was buzzing. Executive assistants hauling in catered breakfast. Videographer setting up lights in the main conference room. Someone had mounted a teleprompter next to the CEO's monitor for his talking points. Nobody paid me any attention. I was already a ghost. I walked past the collaboration pod where they'd shoved my desk after taking my office. My name was still on the whiteboard, half erased under somebody's doodle of a rocket ship. Grabbed my coffee, walked down the hallway to systems operations. Badge still worked. They'd never revoked my access to the old server room. Probably forgot it existed. Hadn't been on facilities maps since 2020. Inside, everything was cool and quiet. Rows of servers blinking like city lights at night. I sat at the terminal I'd installed myself back in 2009, tapped the keyboard, screen came alive. Vault relay, standby, kill switch, 08-4630, node status, nominal. Next ping, T-00, 1347. I leaned back in the chair, the one with the broken spring nobody else would sit in. Outside, executives were laughing. Preston was giving someone a high five. The CEO was practicing his speech in front of a mirror. 8:51 a.m. I logged in one final time, confirmed everything was set, then minimized the window, didn't shut it down, just let it sit there, waiting. 8:55 a.m. Someone posted in Slack. This call is going to be fire. Yeah, it would be. I stood up, smoothed my shirt, finished my coffee. System was ready. Clock was ticking. Nothing left to do but watch. "Good morning to our shareholders, clients, and partners around the world," the CEO said into the camera, smiling like he'd just won the lottery. "Today marks a transformative moment in our growth trajectory." 9 Onkar Nichukwu. The words were still leaving his mouth when it happened. Across 38 countries, every customer dashboard froze. Billing portals stopped responding. API calls just spun and went nowhere. No error messages, no warnings, just silence. Behind the camera, someone gasped. Another person swore under their breath. A support rep stood up so fast she knocked over her coffee. Marketing's big display screen showing live customer engagement went gray. Just a broken icon where the data should have been. someone whispered. The demo's not working. I stayed at my shared desk, back straight, face calm as glass. The CEO kept reading his script, hadn't caught on yet. And thanks to our innovative new infrastructure leadership, "We're down," a voice said from off camera. Sharp. Panicked. The CEO blinked. What? Everything. All customer systems, the whole client-facing infrastructure just crashed. Preston was at his desk, tapping his tablet like a man trying to restart his heart. It was fine yesterday. Maybe the cache, the proxy layer? Someone from PR made a sound like they were choking. Twitter's going crazy. Billion-dollar blackout is trending. The room went from professional to pure chaos in about 15 seconds. Support reps running, engineers shouting into phones, executives huddled in corners whispering like they were planning a coup. I stood up, walked to the coffee station, refilled my mug, stirred in creamer like I had all the time in the world. They kept checking the logs. No hack, no breach. Just empty silence where the system heartbeat should have been. Then someone burst out of the emergency meeting room, face pale as printer paper. Who still has access to the legacy routing shell? Who actually understands how it works? I took a slow sip. Waited. I might, I said finally, but I'd need to check some things. Every head in the room turned toward me like I'd just announced I could walk on water. "Where's the control interface?" the CEO snapped. I pulled a flash drive from my pocket. Small, old, label faded but readable. Key RR001. "I've got the decryption keys," I said, voice steady. "System's not broken. It's just sleeping. But the keys aren't on your servers anymore." The CEO's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. "It's not illegal," I added. "The license terms from 2016 say I retain rights to core architecture I personally developed. It's all documented. I can forward you the PDFs if you want." Dead silence. "So wake it up," the CEO finally managed. I looked at him, then at Preston, then back. "I'll need to review my options first. Make sure everything's properly aligned." The VP of infrastructure looked like he might throw up. "Doug, people are losing money every second this is down." "I know," I said. "That's why you should probably get your legal team and your CFO in a room. I'll send over some terms." Then I walked back to my desk, sat down, opened my personal laptop. At 9:42 a.m., while the boardroom filled with panicked executives and PR tried to spin the disaster on social media, I composed an email. Took me 37 seconds. To CFO, CEO, Board of Directors. Subject: System Restoration Agreement. Attachment: Brennan Terms Final.pdf. No message body. Let the document speak for itself. Service Item 001. Full System Restoration and Stability Guarantee. 4.5 M. Service Item 002. Pension restoration plus health coverage for 3 terminated engineers: Phil Mendez, Melissa Chow, Dante Williams. Service Item 03. Ongoing infrastructure advisory retainer, $50K monthly. Payment terms: wire transfer within 4 hours. Additional terms: no non-disparagement clause, no IP transfer beyond existing agreements. Full public acknowledgement of restoration services rendered. At the bottom in plain text: this is not extortion. This is compensation for value you attempted to eliminate. I hit send, closed the laptop, didn't check for replies. Already knew what they'd say. By 10:17 a.m., Preston was being walked out of the building. I watched from the break room window, 2 security guards flanking him. He was clutching his tablet, face red, looking around like someone might save him. Nobody did. His dad, the CEO, was somewhere in a locked conference room with lawyers and the CFO, probably realizing that firing your most experienced engineer to make room for your unqualified son was a bad play. By 10:40 a.m., HR sent out a company-wide email. Executive Role Realignment and Cultural Assessment Initiative. Corporate speak for "we screwed up and now we're scrambling." The VP of infrastructure was gone by lunch, just vanished. Desk cleared like he'd never existed. My phone buzzed. Text from the CFO. Payment processing. Restore systems immediately. I finished my coffee first. Let them sweat another 5 minutes. Then I walked back to the server room, sat at my terminal, typed in the unlock sequence. Vault, restore, full, verify. Took 90 seconds. Systems blinked back online like they'd just woken from a nap. Customer dashboards loaded, billing portals responded, API calls flowed clean. The company's heartbeat came back, steady, strong, because I'd never actually broken anything. Just put it to sleep until they remembered who kept it alive. I didn't go back to my desk, walked straight to my truck, drove home. It was barely noon on a Friday, and I was done with that place. My wife was in the kitchen when I came in. She looked up from her laptop, reading glasses perched on her nose. "You're home early." "Yeah." I set my bag down. "I quit." She closed the laptop. "They pay you?" "Wire hit my account 20 minutes ago." "How much?" "Enough that Sarah's tuition is covered, your surgery's covered, and we're good for a while." She studied my face. 23 years of marriage. She could read me like server logs. "What did you do, Doug?" I poured myself a glass of water, took a sip, reminded them what happens when they forget who actually keeps the lights on. She smiled. Small, but genuine. Good. Then she stood up, walked over, and kissed me on the cheek. "I'm proud of you." That hit harder than I expected. Felt it right in my chest. "Thanks," I said. "Now go mow the lawn," she added. "It looks like a jungle out there. Back to normal." That's what I needed. That evening I got a call from Phil, one of the guys they'd laid off back in April. "Doug, just got a weird email from HR. Says my position's being reinstated with back pay. You know anything about that?" "Might have been part of the deal," I said. Silence on the other end. Then, "You did this?" "Company did it. I just suggested they make things right." "Man," his voice got thick. "I got a kid starting college in the fall. This saves us." "Good. You earned it, Phil." After we hung up, I felt something loosen in my chest. Preston getting fired was satisfying, getting paid was necessary, but making sure Phil and the others got their jobs back, that felt like actually winning. Monday morning, I started setting up my home office properly, filed LLC paperwork for Brennan Infrastructure Group, ordered business cards, set up a professional website, nothing fancy, just clean and direct. By Tuesday, I had my first call. CTO from a Fortune 500 company. They'd been watching the news about what happened. "We need someone who actually knows what they're doing," he said. "Tired of consultants who talk about innovation but can't debug a server if their life depended on it." "I can help with that," I said. "What's your rate?" $50,000 monthly retainer, minimum 6-month contract. Pause. Then, "Done. When can you start?" By end of week, I had 3 clients, all prepaid contracts, all companies that had watched my former employer crash and burn on a live stream and decided they didn't want that happening to them. Turns out there's good money in being the guy who actually knows how things work. Saturday afternoon, I was on the back deck. Bourbon in my Yeti tumbler, watching the sun go down over the yard. Grass was mowed, gutters were fixed, fence had a fresh coat of stain, normal weekend stuff. Felt good to have time for it. My phone buzzed, text from my son. "Dad, heard you started your own company. That's awesome. Can you teach me some of that infrastructure stuff? Want to learn." I smiled, typed back, "Come by next weekend, I'll show you." Set the phone down, took another sip. My wife came out with her own glass of wine, sat in the chair next to mine. "Feel better?" she asked. "Getting there?" "Good." She raised her glass toward me. "You earned it." "Yeah, I guess I did." Somewhere downtown, they were probably still trying to figure out exactly how I'd pulled everything off. Good luck with that. Some things you don't learn from an online MBA or a fancy presentation deck. They'd called me legacy. Dinosaur. Old school. Said I was holding them back. Turns out old school still knows how to teach new lessons. I finished my bourbon, watched the last bit of sun disappear behind the trees. 22 years at that company before this one. Built systems, trained people, missed family dinners and basketball games and birthday parties because someone needed to keep the servers running. And in the end, they tried to shove me out for a kid who thought infrastructure was just a buzzword. But I'm the one sitting here now, on my own deck, running my own company, making more money in a month than I used to make in 6. And they're the ones who learned what happens when you forget that systems don't run on vibes and finger guns. They run on people who actually know what they're doing. My wife reached over and squeezed my hand. "Proud of you," she said again. "Thanks," I said. "Me too."